The Coral are an English band formed in 1996 in Hoylake on the Wirral Peninsula in England. The band first emerged during the early 2000s and found success with their debut album The Coral and follow-up Magic and Medicine. Their self-titled debut album was nominated for the 2002 Mercury Music Prize and later voted the fourth best album of the year by NME Magazine. In 2008, guitarist Bill Ryder-Jones left the band, however the Coral continued as a five-piece. Their sixth album Butterfly House was released in 2010. History equals 1996 Euro 2000, formation and early years equals, in 1996, school friends Ian Scully and Paul Duffy began jamming together in the basement of Flatfoot Sam's pub in Hoylake. Over the following months they were joined by Bill Ryder-Jones on lead guitar, Ian's older brother James Scully on vocals and main songwriting duties, and then Lee Southall on rhythm guitar. The band were known briefly as Hive before choosing the name The Coral, and the lineup was completed with the addition of Nick Power, who joined as keyboard player in 1998. According to Delta Sonic head Alan Wills, he first encountered the band from a gig poster they had made of their granddad's head exploding, and decided to go and see them live. At that point the band hadn't released any records. When Wills discovered the band he had already started to think about starting a label but had yet to do so, and The Coral gave Wills the impetus to start Delta Sonic. Wills told Headquarters that, it was always the aim to release them through Delta Sonic, and it was always their aim to be on Delta Sonic. Most people wouldn't a Euro unregistered trademark T have understood The Coral at that point. Wills also assumed responsibility for managing the band, albeit reluctantly as he was unable to find anyone else to take on the role. Equals 2001 Euro 2004, the copyright but album and breakthrough equals, hailed as the first English band of the guitar group Revival. The band's first release was the single Shadows Fall, which was followed by two EPs, the Oldest Path EP and Skeleton Key EP. Their eponymous debut album The Coral, released in 2002, reached number 5 on the UK Albums Chart and was nominated for the Mercury Prize the day after its release. A successful UK tour and festival slots followed along with the singles Goodbye reaching number 21 in the UK Singles Chart and Dreaming of You reaching number 13. The single Dreaming of You was included in the United States sitcom Scrubs episode My Monster. The Coral also performed Dreaming of You live on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. After a hectic year they recorded Magic and Medicine in 2003, which reached number 1 on the UK Albums Chart and garnered critical praise. The album was largely made up of dreamlike acoustic ballads rather than the aggressive psychedelia of their debut. They followed the release with UK, European, American and Japanese tours and a one-off festival Midsummer Night's Scream, held in a big top on the New Brighton Promenade. The support for this event included a lineup of up-and-coming bands, such as the Libertines, the Zootons and the Thrills. Singles from the album, Don't Think You're the First, Pass It On, Secret Kiss, and Bill Make I reached number 10, 5, 25, and 23 respectively on the UK Singles Chart. Next The Coral quickly recorded their mini-album Night Freak and the Sons of Becca. Released in early 2004 with little promotion and no accompanying singles, it was also included as a bonus disc with US versions of Magic and Medicine. Night Freak and the Sons of Becca marked another change in direction for the band, showcasing a darker, funkier and more lo-fi sound. Equals 2005 Euro 2008, continued success and Bill Ryder-Jones' departure equals, in 2004 they began recording The Invisible Invasion, with Portishead's Adrian Utley and Jeff Barrow as producers. On its 2005 release, The Invisible Invasion entered the UK album chart at number 3. A second CD containing live versions of songs from this and previous albums was included with early copies. The Coral followed this with UK, European, American and Japanese tours, also releasing In the Morning, which reached number 6 and Something Inside of Me, which reached number 41 on the UK Singles Chart. In June 2005 guitarist Bill Ryder-Jones took a break from the band and it was announced that he would not tour again, but might continue to help with future recordings. He was replaced by David McDonnell for the Invisible Invasion tour. In late 2005 the band had written an album without Bill entitled The Curse of Love. At the beginning of 2006, however, Ryder-Jones was persuaded to rejoin as a full-time band member and the band shelved those songs in order to begin work on another album, Roots and Echoes. The Coral toured with Arctic Monkeys during their 2007 summer festival gigs, releasing the single, Who's Gonna Find Me on July 30, 2007 followed by the album Roots and Echoes on August 6, 2007. The band enlisted the help of Matt Potter for percussion and jazz flute on the album. In contrast to their frenetic early material, this album was a much more laid-back affair, and displayed a newfound maturity to the band's songwriting. Tracks such as Rebecca You and Music at Night were embellished with string arrangements written by Ryder-Jones. They opened the BBC Electric Proms on October 24, 2007 with Who's Gonna Find Me, and were joined on stage by celebrity friend Noel Gallagher, who played lead guitar on their track In the Rain. In January 2008 Ryder-Jones left the Coral, apparently due to experiencing panic attacks before playing live, and finding that his desire to be part of a commercially successful band had disappeared. He has since received great acclaim with an orchestral solo album. In a March 2010 interview, Bill Ryder-Jones said of James Scully's songwriting, "James was such a brilliant songwriter, still is." Drawing a line under the first chapter of their career, the Coral released a 3-LP and 2-CD compilation album singles collection on September 15, 2008, featuring all but 2 of their singles to date. A new single, Being Somebody Else, was released on September 8, 2008. The album also contained a second CD entitled Mysteries and Rarities which contained 19 previously unreleased songs, demos, outtakes and live recordings of earlier songs. 2009 Present, 5-piece lineup. The Coral released their 6th album Butterfly House on July 12, 2010. The album was produced by John Leckie, of the Stone Roses and Radiohead fame, and was recorded at RAK Studios in London as well as Rockfield in South Wales. 4 singles were released from the album, 1000 Years, More Than a Lover, Walking in the Winter, and Two Faces. The new songs had been crafted over a 2-year span during which the band fine-honed and road-tested the material. The deluxe version of this album came with a bonus CD of 5 additional songs. Critical reception was largely positive. Record Collector magazine was notably praiseworthy. Butterfly House continues to set the benchmark high. A Thing of True Wonderment, Unregistered Trademark S Chimmering, Beatific multicolored coats of guitars and vocal harmonies Think the Everly Brothers, Birds, Crosby, Stills and Nash dress songs that primarily concern themselves with the demystification process This is a genuine contender for 2010 Album of the Year. 6 months after the release of Butterfly House, the Coral released Butterfly House Acoustic, a limited edition acoustic re-recording of the entire album which they completed in a single day, after positive reviews of their acoustic live performances. In February 2011, Butterfly House was named UK Album of the Year 2010 at the Music Producers Guild Awards. Robert Plant, a fellow MPG nominee for his album With the Band of Joy, carefully scheduled his rehearsal on BBC Two's Later with Jules in order to make it to the Coral's performance at the Royal Albert Hall on November 15, 2010. In a March 2012 interview, bassist Paul Duffy reported that a new album is in progress at Peter Gabriel's Real World Studios in Bristol, stating that the sound was a lot heavier, Unregistered Trademark S very layered, it's like you have one thing and you just keep adding things on top, and it just sounds big cause we've gone in as a 6-piece. In spring 2012 the band announced an indefinite hiatus in order to concentrate on individual projects. Their half-finished 7th album was shelved. On August 24, 2014, Jeff Barrow announced when standing in for Stuart McEnany on the BBC Radio 6 Music Freak Zone show that the Coral were to release The Curse of Love in September 2014. The album was recorded around the time of The Invisible Invasion, an album produced by the Portishead and Beakman, but was only recently mastered for release on James Scully's Skeleton Key label. Wrapped in Blue is the first cut from the album, which Barrow played on the show. Musical style and influence. Despite the guitar group Revival tag, they had little in common with their peers. Their music was a hybrid of psychedelia, Motown, dub reggae, Mersey beat and spaghetti western soundtracks, and their lyrics portrayed an obsession with the sea. The band's music is a mixture of 1960s-style psychedelia and folk rock with old-fashioned country and modern indie rock influences. The Corals' distinctive musical style has strongly influenced many other of the Liverpool-based label's acts, including the Zootons, the Dead Sixties and the Rascals. Other projects. Solo albums. Drummer Ian Scully released a solo album, Cut from a Star, on December 10, 2012. He subsequently toured with a 7-piece backing band, the Serpent Power, which included Coral members James Scully, Paul Duffy and Nick Power. In July 2013 the album was re-released as a deluxe edition double CD. Following this Ian began working with guitarist Paul Molloy under the name Serpent Power, recording an eponymous album due for release in April 2015. Lead singer James Scully released an album entitled Love Undercover on June 3, 2013 with the Intenders, a band comprising Coral members Ian Scully, Paul Duffy and Nick Power, as well as members of the Sundowners and Tramp Attack. Tracks such as Do It Again unveiled a less abstract dimension to the artist's songwriting style and highlighted the earthy power of Scully's distinctive vocals. The band toured the UK in June 2013. Guitarist Lee Southall is recording an album with the singer Molly Jones, provisionally titled Goodbye to the River, due for release in 2013 under the name Northern Sky. The duo are planning gigs in the lead-up to the album's release. Bassist Paul Duffy is working on a project in collaboration with Eva Peterson, to soundtrack the animation Lunar Lament of a Haunted Heart by John Divide. He has also provided the soundtrack for a short film by Jade Mortimer, titled Risen. Keyboard player Nick Power has published Small Town Chase, a book of lyrics and poetry. He has also written and performed with the Lost Brothers on the 2014 album New Songs of Dawn and Dust. Power contributed 2 songs, one of which was Hotel Loneliness. Skeleton Key Records. Skeleton Key Records was founded as a Liverpool-based independent record label in 2013 by James, Ian and Neville Scully. The label evolved out of Neville's earlier label Watertown Records, on which he had released his own material. James Scully and the Intenders' Love Undercover was the first album released by the label, followed by the 2-CD deluxe edition of Ian Scully's Cut from a Star. Artists signed to the label include James Scully and the Intenders, Ian Scully, Neville Scully, the Sundowners, Marvin Powell and She Drew the Gun. Filmography. The Coral Mini-Movie, The Curry Files, The Coral Film. Personnel, current members, James Scully lead vocals, rhythm guitar, percussion, lyrics, Lee Southall guitars, backing vocals, Paul Duffy bass guitar, saxophone, backing vocals, Nick Power keyboards, organ, melodica, piano, backing vocals, lyrics, Ian Scully drums, former members, Bill Ryder-Jones lead guitar, trumpet, live members, David McDonnell lead guitar. Discography. Studio albums, The Coral, Magic and Medicine, Night Freak and the Sons of Becca, The Invisible Invasion, Roots and Echoes, Butterfly House, The Curse of Love. Tours, debut UK tour, The Coral Tour, Magic and Medicine Tour, The Invisible Invasion Tour, Roots and Echoes Tour, The Singles Collection Tour, Butterfly House Tour, as support act, NME Carling Awards Tour, Supergrass, Life on Other Planets Tour, Blur, Think Tank Tour, Oasis, Don't Believe the Truth Tour, Arctic Monkeys, Favorite Worst Nightmare Tour. References. External links, official website.